Hello, my friends. Welcome to Connect with Confidence podcast. I am just laughing at myself already because last week I just said, welcome to the Connect with Confidence. And I completely forgot the word podcast. So that was pretty funny when I read the transcript. Okay, so I am a little excited to share with you again a reading session with Lyndon, who asks great questions. And I have to say thank you. And this is because of people stopping me in the street and texting me and messaging me to say, love the podcast talking to Lyndon about your writing and do more of this, please. So to everyone who said that, and Lyndon, I think you've got some fans out there. Thank you for joining me again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, he's bowing like he's on stage right now. It's hilarious. Okay, so shall we, Lyndon, dive into my second book, which is 11 years old right now. Well, actually 11 years ago right now, it was at the printers. And we were eagerly awaiting the arrival so that we could get it out to people for Christmas. And listeners are going to notice a common theme. And Ethan was probably about 10 or 11 when he said, Mum, why do we always have to get books out just before Christmas?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing like a sense of deadline, is there? And here it is again. It's November already, and there's a book that we're going to get out before Christmas. And of course, for our readers around the world who celebrate different festivals throughout the year, maybe you get it because you have different festivals that you just have on the calendar. That is a sense of deadline to get things done by. And of course, in other countries, school years are different. But it's like in Australia, everything comes to a conclusion at the end of the year, and it's a nice deadline. So with no further ado, I'm going to start with Lifting the Lid on Quiet Achievers. The subtitle is Success Stories of Regional Entrepreneurs, and it's a beautiful foreword by Tim Fisher, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, and lovely man. And I got to meet him in Byron Bay at the Writers' Festival a few years ago, where he was launching a book, Trains Unlimited. So, of course, I bought a copy for Dad, and it was beautiful to meet him. So, Lyndon, I thought I'm just going to start reading some of the passages in the book. And, of course, you get a mention many, many times.
I usually get a mention in your book somewhere, don't I? That's what you do. Is that what you do to appease me for dropping a deadline on saying it's going to be out by then? Here's all this work. I'm biting off more than I can chew, so I'm shoving some in your mouth.
Yes, you do certainly ride the waves with me, and I think there is. You know what? Let's start with an acknowledgement. I did that in the last podcast, and Lyndon, you're actually the second paragraph.
What?
In the
Another first? Oh my gosh.
I think you'll understand, and I hope all our listeners will understand. So I started with my parents. Ross and Jenny Stockings, you have helped shape who I am. You've supported me to chase my dreams and believed in me incredibly. You've shown me that the world is full of interesting and inspiring people and demonstrated the power of generosity, trusting people and believing the best of them. I am so proud to be called your daughter.
That's lovely. And it's good that you got that one in, because the next book, somehow that page just disappeared, which was really quite tragic.
It was. And maybe that's a conversation for another podcast. But
yeah.
I'm sure they do get mentions, honourable mentions throughout the book, and possibly they're in the thank you page. But I actually was dedicating the Do Talk to Strangers book to Mum and Dad, and it wasn't until a year or two later when I asked my VA in the Philippines, could she please take the dedication page and turn it into like a social media post or something, and she said, I can't find the dedication. And I said, oh, okay, here's the words, because it was in my head, and I knew that if she typed the words into the PDF she'd find it. Well, it just wasn't there. But my dedication,
it was beautiful.
It was
heartfelt, and yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go on with the next acknowledgement, which is Lyndon. Words can't express the depth of gratitude I have for you. You are my right hand. Okay. Do I confess what time it is that we're recording this? Okay.
Yeah, why not?
It's a late Sunday evening. Okay.
Kerrie's actually sitting there in her pajamas
Oh,
because
thank you,
we
darling.
were going to bed.
So what was I saying about you? You just
That I was a legend, and so that I would sit here and blush.
You love sharing the behind the scenes. So you are my right arm, my chef, my nutritionist, my coach, my manager, my lover, my best friend, and my massage therapist and technology guru to the journey, ...
To the journey.
I think to the journey might have been in the previous book too.
It was.
So we'll leave it there. It's like pages. But chapter 1, which is my story, and then we have chapters with all these other extraordinary people. So let's start here with life on purpose. If you imagine a voice saying, you did that on purpose, it might remind you of a schoolyard conversation or an accusation. It generally means that something was done deliberately and perhaps not a positive situation. However, if you leave those experiences in the past and consider what you could do on purpose to have a deliberate positive impact on the world around you, you might find it really fun. Since I stepped into the world of professional coaching, where encouragement and acknowledgement is the norm, I have often been acknowledged for my energy with comments such as, your energy is amazing, or you bring a great energy to the room. This has been a surprise to me, as I felt that energy was my biggest challenge. In terms of my health, I had a long way to go in regaining enough energy to maintain a full schedule or swim more than 2 laps of the pool. What people were seeing was the energy that comes with the passion and enthusiasm of living on purpose. As I was doing research for this book, online and through many conversations, I kept hearing that people wanted to hear from me in this book too, not just my friends. So I've answered some of the questions that I'm often asked. Yeah, so this was interesting, wasn't it? Because I wanted to interview all these inspiring entrepreneurs and people were saying, yeah, but what about your story?
Yeah.
And I didn't really think I had a story to share, did I?
No, you didn't think you did, but you do, don't you?
Yes, and here's another honourable mention of Lyndon. The question that I begin with is, when did you first consider building your own business? My husband Lyndon surprised me with the answer to this one. Does he know me better than I know myself? He heard me say to someone recently, I'd never really thought about being in business until I came across coaching. It meant creating a business as there were no coaching jobs around here. He said, that's not true. You were always talking about having your own business when we first met. Wow, what happened? Thinking about this makes me wonder who else has buried dreams. It's not too late to uncover them and breathe life into them again. My first foray into business was when I was about 11. The girls from my primary school were visiting our farm and I saw an opportunity to share my treasure. My grandparents had given me bucket loads of the most amazing large seashells they'd collected over time. I thought I could offer some to my admiring friends for 20 to 50 cents and everyone would be happy. I sold quite a few that day and we were all happy with our trade. Until a parent of one of the girls decided it was wrong and insisted that all money be returned. I didn't understand, but I was horrified that I'd done the wrong thing and upset someone. Was selling wrong. Sometimes small incidents like this can be the beginning of a limiting belief that lies dormant until it's challenged later in life. The desire to be creative and to share with people the gems that I have discovered has been there for a long time. I just lost confidence along the way. Lyndon's belief in me has been an incredible platform for me to dive off into the great unknown of the entrepreneurial journey, and I am forever grateful.
You've been forever grateful, and I've been forever going, why the hell did I do that? My gosh. I'm glad I did. Just sometimes I wonder if my life would have been a little bit simpler and easier.
Yeah, but I think you secretly love the adventure.
Yeah, my life would be very boring if it was not for you.
Yes.
I would probably be living a very boring life.
Yes. Okay, so I think I need to read the next part, which I do get asked this question a lot. How did you get into coaching? So I'll read that because I need to read the next bit about my health and stuff. Okay, so how did you get into coaching? When I began coaching at the end of 2004, most people I spoke to with great enthusiasm said, that's awesome, sounds like you. But what is it? I was forced to take a sabbatical in 2003. I was just too sick to work and could barely function for a long time. It was quite depressing. I took lots of walks around the neighbourhood, and on one particular day I was pondering, God, where do I go from here? How can I more effectively help people? I ran through several conversations in my head, imagining meeting people and running through a number of titles, people helping kind of roles, and nothing quite fit. The phrase, I'm a coach, popped into my head, and the lights went on, angels started singing, fireworks were going off. That was it. Although it sounded completely new to me, as though the idea had just fallen from heaven, it was a perfect fit. My next question was, what is it? Soon after, Google came to the rescue and answered my questions. Results Coaching Systems, the leading Australian coach trainer I found, used words on their web pages that could have been borrowed from my personal journal. Again, a perfect fit. And since that was written back in 2009, I can now update that Results Coaching Systems is now the Neuro Leadership Group and run the Neuro Leadership Summits. And, people who've been around for a little while might have heard me talking about neuroscientists and just the incredible things I've been learning about the brain. But even back then, it was just an incredible fit. So, next question. Unless you want to jump in, Lyndon, you happy for me to move on?
No, I did have a question, but then I got to kept listening to what you were saying. I should have written it down.
That's okay.
So, yeah, we'll have to move on because I did have a really good question. It'll come back if it was great.
That's right. I love that you were completely present. Thank you. So, what have been the biggest challenges in establishing your business? From a practical angle, definitely cash flow. I hadn't earned much in years. My previous 7 years of youth work were almost voluntary, and I had no sense of valuing my time. We were seriously in debt, and I could say it was money challenges. But external challenges such as cash flow, technology issues, or a lack of support can be an excuse to not look at the internal challenges, which I believe are more important to deal with. Then the practical issues can be sorted much more easily. This may come as a surprise, but we're more equipped to overcome these challenges if we get out of our own way. Perhaps we need to learn something new, approach something differently, or believe in ourselves more. It's easier to blame external circumstances than be honest and say, I missed the opportunity because I lacked the confidence to speak up, or I didn't manage my time well. My health was seriously challenged when I began the business. I was recovering from a chronic illness that cost me my job. That turned out to be the catalyst for change and the opportunity to discover how I could live more purposefully. I learned how to look after myself and do the best I could, resting when I needed to and not feeling guilty. This allowed me to be fair to myself and to see what was really going on in my thinking. I've discovered that the major challenge I've faced in my business is me. I think communicating my passion has also been a challenge, and I like to tackle a challenge head on. Thanks for that trait, Dad. This requires absolute authenticity and a risk of rejection. So I've taken this on, finding that sometimes this has opened incredible doors and at times surprisingly tough. I love people and I want to be understood. I've had to learn that not everyone will understand where I'm coming from. Everyone is unique and has different perspectives and passions. Over the past few years, the importance of being understood and accepted has slipped down the priorities list, as being myself absolutely has risen to the top, along with doing whatever it takes to learn and grow, living on purpose regardless of what others think of me. This above all to thine own self be true, and it must follow. This above all to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou cannot then be false to any man. Shakespeare. Shakespeare's comment is worth pondering. If you're true to yourself, you'll be true to others. That is the kind of person that people want to do business with, the kind of person who sleeps well at night and walks through challenges with greater ease. Another great quote that I really relate to and find encouragement in is this: to be nobody but yourself in a world that's doing its best to make you somebody else is to fight the hardest battle you are going to fight and never stop fighting. E. Cummings.
That's a great quote, and I find that quite relevant to you because people, I think I mentioned it on the previous podcast. I asked you the question about, do you think people feel threatened by your confidence? And it stands true that people seem to be threatened by you being you.
Yes.
And you're not a threatening or scary person at all.
At all.
you are, and this is not nepotism speaking, you are generous and kind and loving, and your whole world, like not unlike your father's, is you love to help people. And that kindness seems to scare people. It's almost like they don't believe that somebody could actually just want to be kind and just want to help.
Yeah, I think there is a sense of people sort of on edge looking for what's the agenda, and you can't see it because it's just this open-hearted, like, hey, we can talk, we can be friends. Or so there's that. And I think when you encounter somebody who is just so authentic and really shining from that place, then it can, I think, invisibly or unconsciously show you where you are not being authentic. And I know that I've experienced that with other people as well. And like I was just showing you Dr. Batiste Berry, who was one of the speakers at Asia Professional Speakers Convention. And she does these amazing little Instagram videos where she just says, hi, I'm Dr. Batiste Berry and I want to tell you a story. And then she just goes on and tells this beautiful story from the heart, and she just shines. And the one that I was showing Lyndon just now, she's just talking about her laugh and just bursting out with joy, and somebody going, oh my gosh, like, keep that quiet. And it's one of those things where not everybody's going to love your joy or your passion or your enthusiasm. But when I was reading this the other day, Lyndon, I thought this is really funny. It reminded me of one day when we were going for a walk, and I'm not sure what the dispute was, but I was saying how I'm far more open and authentic now.
Yeah, I remember my response.
What do you remember about your response?
That it was not quite what you expected, that's for sure.
I've come a long way, and it's really interesting that I'm reading this now, because I feel like, in the past few years, we meaning peers and people I'm having conversations with, and just in social media, there is such a conversation about authenticity. And I was talking about it back then, and I was feeling the freedom of being myself already, but I think it is a constant conversation. And so this quote, and I think I remember it differently to what I've put in here. I think there's a longer version that says, to be nobody but yourself in a world that's doing its best night and day to make you somebody else is to fight the hardest battle you are going to fight and never stop fighting. So it is a continual coming back to ourselves and checking in, like hearing the still small voice and going, actually, this is how I feel about this.
The journey.
Yeah, it's a constant journey of self-awareness. But I loved reading that. I loved reflecting on that and going, wow, back in 2009, I was already finding the freedom of just being myself. And, I don't know, I don't think I told this story on a podcast before, but I remember one business event that I was at, and have I talked about the juice bottle?
You've told me about it, and I heard you tell the story, but I haven't heard it on one of your podcasts. No.
Okay, so I'm having a chat with somebody. He was a little bit stiff and businesslike, but it was, a nice, polite conversation. And I picked up the juice bottle, and juice went flying. Like, it was just the lid was off, obviously, and he just hurried away. Like, he did not want to be seen with me, and it just highlighted to me that A, I could laugh at myself. B, not everybody's going to see the funny side of it. And that was like a clear moment to me that I don't want to try and fit into that tense kind of box. I don't, like, we make mistakes, and I have to be able to laugh at myself, because otherwise, gosh, wouldn't I be I just wouldn't get out of bed. I just wouldn't go anywhere or try anything if I couldn't laugh at myself or recognize that I'm going to make mistakes.
Yeah. And you help me in that respect, because I can take things a bit too seriously. And
yeah.
You just laugh and hug me, darling. Just laugh and hug me.
Yes. Should I give the background on that phrase?
Yeah, go for it.
So, when you're a kid and the teacher is getting more and more cross, and you just get the giggles, And then the more tense the situation gets, the more you cannot hold the giggles in. Well, when we hadn't been married very long, Lyndon was very upset about something, and I couldn't deal with the tension.
With good reason, I'm sure.
And I can still remember we're standing in the hallway, and I didn't know what to do with the tension. Like, my family's not, they don't shout, they're not dramatic. Lyndon's family has a dramatic flair, and Lyndon particularly has a dramatic flair and a really loud voice, which we won't, share on the podcast because you might have like earpieces in. But anyway, so he's getting louder and more. It was a robust conversation, and I just got the giggles. I just didn't know what to do with such tension. And so, of course, he was getting, more and more angry as I was giggling. And I didn't know what to do with that. So I just went, just laugh and hug me.
And that worked?
It did. It broke the tension. I don't know if he laughed immediately, but he did hug me because, of course, he was not going to say no to a hug. And it's been pulled out of the back pocket every now and then. So it's just good if we can laugh at ourselves and let go of. Wow, my eyes have just fallen on the next page. I think I was just saying, let go of the things that get us all knotted up.
So, Kerrie.
Mm-hmm.
Early on when you were reading tonight, you talked about confidence. It came up quite a few times through what you were reading. This is your second book. And since then, there seems to be a theme with you, and that is you do talk a lot about confidence to the extent you now have an online course, Connect with Confidence. So when did you see that theme was emerging with you?
That's a really good question. And I think... we see themes as we look back, as we discussed in the last podcast. And I saw that even as I was reading my thanks to my parents in the beginning of this book. You've shown me the world is full of interesting and inspiring people. So this theme of connecting with confidence really, I think, I became aware of it when people were asking me, how do I meet all these people? How do I, it really was maybe around 2012. And I guess confidence has been a theme in coaching. So with clients since 2004, people might come with all kinds of goals, but confidence is a key theme because it's clarity and confidence. When we have clarity, then we have the confidence to move forward. So I think it really has been part of the entire coaching journey, so since 2004. But particularly as I've been speaking about Do Talk to Strangers, as I've been speaking more, even perhaps when I was doing the book launches with Lifting the Lid on Quiet Achievers, I was doing conversations with entrepreneurs events around Australia. And maybe people were asking me then about how do I get to be so confident? And my response was like, oh, I'm not confident. I'm just a girl having a go. And realizing that the confidence comes from living on purpose, which is the name of my chapter here, Life on Purpose. So when we are purposeful, we're often tackling things that we might not otherwise. We might not have the confidence to do it, but if it's for a greater purpose, then we step up. Just like people rushing in to help strangers, like in an accident or something, they might normally hang back and just think, oh, I wouldn't interfere. But sometimes they just see that something needs to be done, and so they just step in. And it's that, our purpose can become so much bigger than our fears. So long answer, but the theme has been emerging for quite some time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I love this because... Yes, here we go. The next question is, what is a simple way to inspire people? People can be inspired by what you do, mostly by who you are, but simply by believing in them, you can inspire them to be their best. Now, here's another quote by E.E. Cummings. We do not believe in ourselves until someone reveals that deep inside us is something valuable, worth listening to, worthy of our trust, sacred to our touch. Once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. I think one of the key ways people have inspired me to make a difference is to believe in me. Too often, people make a difference in someone's life and they can be completely unaware. People have pulled me up and made me see that my actions or who I am has helped others, and this makes me keep going when otherwise I might give up, which affects more than just me. Does that make sense? It's funny reading this after not looking at it for some time.
Yeah.
So my friends, this is raw and real. I have not rehearsed for this conversation because it literally is a conversation with you. Okay, in 2008, I was asked to run a workshop at Results Coaching Systems conference, Coach Fest. It was the 10-year anniversary of RCS and a huge honour to be invited to speak. It was, however, a little daunting to consider standing up before my peers and new coaches speaking about making a bigger difference. I think there's a little understatement there, do you? It was a little daunting. I think I probably felt sick to the stomach, to be honest. Okay, I spoke with Marianne Perry, I've just lost my page, bear with me. Marianne Perry, a wonderful friend, awarded Coach of the Year at the 10th anniversary dinner a few weeks before the event, and she heard my concerns about the session I was planning. Marianne commented, "But Kerrie, everything you do is beautiful." I was surprised by this, especially as her tone said, "Didn't you know that?" And I realised again that we don't see ourselves the way others do. The kind of encouragement I've received from Marianne and countless colleagues and friends, even people I don't know, makes me keep going. Mary Brell is another wonderful friend who has encouraged me greatly through her belief in me. Natalie Bramble, a brilliant local businesswoman and champion for regional women, suggested that Mary connect with me, as Mary was looking for speakers for her women's events in the Central West. We met at a cafe and instantly connected like great friends. I then spoke at Mary's Women, Wine and Wellbeing event in Dubbo. I left the event discouraged, being very hard on myself, and thought she wouldn't ask me again. She did, and we went on to do Women, Wine and Wealth, and then Women, Wine and Wisdom in other locations. Mary is a great believer in people and was one of the first I invited to be part of this book. I'm incredibly grateful for her friendship, support, and matter-of-fact acknowledgements and observations that have encouraged my development. These faithful friends don't just acknowledge what I do well or what they love about me to make me feel good. They tell me to put a bomb under me sometimes. When you see that compliments are great opportunities to learn, it changes the whole look and feel of them. It's not about a warm fuzzy, but an opportunity to learn more about yourself, the way people perceive you, and the way you can make a difference. When you think about someone's qualities or notice them do something well, let them know. It's a powerful thing, and one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is a sincere word of encouragement, especially if it's written too. I wonder how many people have walked away from their destiny, burnt out and discouraged because they didn't see the value in what they did and who they are. And people forgot to tell them, or worse, didn't mention because they didn't want them to get a big head. So for our international friends, that might be an Australian thing. But for all kinds of reasons, people don't pass on the good news. They don't tell you how well you're doing. And of course, sometimes you don't let yourself see it either. So back to the book. When discouragement comes, we can forget who we are and what we're here for, and forget all about living on purpose. Okay, and the next question in the book is, do you ever feel like you're not living on purpose? Absolutely. The energy disappears after great excitement, and it's all part of the journey. At the end of 2008, I celebrated an amazing year, full of highlights, massive challenges, and an ever-steep learning curve. I had launched our website with Lyndon, coached inspiring, motivated people, spoken at a variety of functions, been there for my brother as he lay in hospital, recovering from a life-threatening accident, created and launched my book within a month, and the same week my book arrived, I presented at Coach Fest and was awarded 2008 Making a Bigger Difference Award. After Christmas, I found myself exhausted and in need of a good rest. I had a quiet month, writing in my journal each day and reading through old journals. I noticed that I was thinking about inspiring concepts in my head, imagining speaking to groups of people about the power of words and effective thinking. I could see myself speaking with passion and clarity. It was great to imagine, but it felt so far from reality, especially in my tired state. I felt that I was not a speaker and found that somewhere along the way, my confidence had disappeared. I was becoming frustrated with the visions of speaking and the challenge of making it a reality. I told one of my friends, Amanda, about my lack of confidence in speaking and that I wasn't really a speaker. And she looked at me like I'd said the most ridiculous thing. I was about to defend myself, then realised that she's actually been in the audience a few times when I've spoken locally, so my argument fell to pieces. I saw that I just had to get over the lack of confidence and keep moving forward and stepping into my potential and purpose in a greater way. I remember that. I was waking up from dreams in the morning, and in my dream I was like on stage in front of like a massive audience, and I remember one specifically for some reason was New Zealand, and I'd wake up happy and then realize, oh my gosh, that's not me. Why am I like, it was getting frustrating. Do you remember? And then I got an email saying, do you want to be a speaker? And I went and did speaker training because I went, oh my gosh, that's where I'm headed next. But I love that. The moment with Amanda looking at me, it was like that previous conversation with Marianne when she said, but Kerrie, everything you do is beautiful. And they both really confronted me because I was saying how everything I did was not good enough. And I really appreciate the people in my world who have either with compliments and encouragement or those moments of, what? Of course you can do that. Their matter-of-fact kind of belief in me has put a bomb under me sometimes.
Yeah, so that's a really valuable learning.
So I think I might just read something else before we wrap up. So I mentioned Mary Brell in my chapter, and so I'm just going to say a couple of things about Mary's chapter because I think it's really cool, and Natalie as well. Let's flick to the back where we've got some great comments from Natalie, which I haven't looked at for a long time. So let's just see what's there. So Mary's chapter is called A Bushwalker's Track to Success, and I loved that this book has examples of people of all different ages and different backgrounds, different kinds of experiences building a business in regional Australia, because it busts through all of these limitations that we have, like I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too inexperienced, or I've had this career all my life, it's kind of too late for me now to have my own business. Yeah, Mary's someone who, had a career working in the Department of Education and Training, but then she stepped out on her own. And so stepping out is a good phrase to use because she uses this analogy of walking, or a metaphor of walking. She said that made sense as she began thinking about the book. She said, I hope you are able to experience my walking as I try to unravel the many tracks I've been on through the years of Keys to Success, which is the name of her business.
Maybe I would appreciate Marianne's chapter more now that I've walked across Spain and seen the insights that come from walking.
Yes. So Mary spoke about networking. She says, network, and keep networking. Use every opportunity to explore different and exciting options. Learn about business and the business community. Develop links within your community and write a business plan. So she talked about learning self-awareness, believing in herself, and knowing, recognizing, and celebrating your capabilities, which, as I shared in my chapter, she was doing with me. And she talks about mentors, and she says, my children became my biggest supporters and believers. Unbeknown to them, they mentored me through the transition, which is beautiful. And she also shared more lessons. Surround yourself with people who will help you, who believe in you. Find a mentor or personal business coach. Ask yourself the question, what do you really do? And never forget your true friends. They will always stay with you. And I would say that of Amanda too, who's mentioned here in this book, and still a great friend. So let's also flick through to Natalie Bramble. Now, I could have just filled the book with people from Dubbo, but I wanted to have them all over the country, and I did, as far as Port Hedland in Western Australia. But I added these short chapters in the back of the book because I couldn't leave these amazing local people behind. So Natalie said, I find the business community extremely supportive. When I won the award for marketing and presentation at the 2008 Rhino Business Excellence Awards in Dubbo, I said in my speech that the majority of people in the room had positively influenced me through their encouragement, advice, or mentoring since I began my business. And it's true. It's hard enough being in business. And if I didn't have a strong network of people to connect with, to share each other's journey, I wouldn't enjoy what I do as much. I am regularly amazed at the connections that people make in regional Australia and how many more opportunities they are presented with that I know would not have happened had they lived anywhere else. There's definitely a strength that regional Australia has to offer business owners, the communities we have and the passionate people that live in them. And Natalie's helping communities right across Australia and beyond. And it's really nice to reflect on that and know that she's, you know, then I thought she was making a huge impact, and now so much more so. So yeah, it's cool. And you know, I can't talk about this book without mentioning Nathan Shooter, who is on the cover also, and has been part of my business journey in different ways over the years. And so, you know, if anyone is listening and would like to read these stories, send me a little message on the socials and just say, can I please have a PDF? And I will happily send you the PDF. Or if you would like me to post it, should we just ask people to just cover the postage down and let's send them a copy? Because I want to get this book into, because this book was printed back in the day when you bought thousands upon thousands, and we still have a few boxes in the garage, and I want them to be inspiring people. And there's so much timeless wisdom in there, like from Roger Fletcher, who's the founder of Fletcher International Exports, and just such an understated champion, isn't he? He's the master of understatements. He says in the book, you know, I'm just a farmer.
Well, he is a farmer.
He is a farmer, and so much more. Yeah, just the way he is a solution-focused thinker. And yeah, he shared his brave moments. He shared, you know, I think it was a challenge for him to answer some of the questions because he's so matter-of-fact. You know, you just get on with things. And yeah, I always feel like I've learned so much when I have a conversation with Roger, whether it's in the supermarket aisle, having a look at the price of meat, and then I suddenly get a snapshot of what's going on around the world, or I've met up with him in the airport numerous times, and some of his updates are just fascinating. So love that. Okay, so there are too many people in there to mention, but if you would like to get a copy of it, then please just send us a little message and we will get it to you, PDF or posted and signed, of course. But let's inspire and encourage people, because we're all we're all people having a go and just wanting to make a difference in the world and in our communities. So yeah, love to share it. Lyndon, thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me and yeah, getting me to dig deeper. And I did have to access a few memory files.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was good. It was good. So bring on the feedback if you want more of these conversations, because I haven't unpacked other books that I've authored, co-authored, and there is a beautiful book coming out very, very soon, and I'll be interviewing people on the podcast who have been involved in that journey too. So let's keep writing, let's keep sharing, let's keep encouraging the people in our world. Thank you for listening.